Welcome to the Beyond Thundera Podcast, the podcast where I, Sean McKeone, the author of Hall of Omens, the unofficial ultimate guide to ThunderCats, toys and beyond, and Hall of Omens Thunderverse, team up with the legendary writer Peter Lawrence to talk about the secrets, stories, and the creative madness behind ThunderCats and everything that came after. We're talking SilverHawks, TigerSharks, and the wild world of 80s and 90s animation. You can expect behind-the-scenes info, untold production stories, toy talk, guests, and plenty of laughs. We're going to be joined by crew from all aspects of production, voice actors, and fellow fans that want to share their personal stories as to why these shows mean so much to them. If these shows shaped your childhood, or you just love great animation history, this is your new home. And without further ado, I want to go ahead and bring in the legendary, again, I know I already said that, and he's going to argue with me about that, but one of the showrunners of ThunderCats, Peter Lawrence.
Hey, Buddha.
Hey there, Peter.
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm always good, always good.
Okay. Well, I've argued with this before, as you mentioned, legendary, a little bit strong, but I guess if we're friends, maybe I should say why we're doing this together.
Yeah.
I don't know how long I've known Buddha. I mean, I think some few years ago we had brief contact, but since his first book, we've become, pretty good friends.
Yeah.
And what he's done also is introduced me to this whole kind of world of ThunderCats fans or aficionados, which has been astonishing for me because I've really not had anything to do with it since I left the show, and that's 40 odd years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So when we decided to do this, the idea was that Buddha covers and probably knows more than anyone else about the entire toy business, the collectors, the, if you like, backstage of aficionados. And I probably know more about the actual production of the show than anybody else. And there may be a couple of exceptions, I don't think so. So what we thought we'd do is come at this from the two different angles, and we'd be able to cover all that ground. I have a lot of questions about the following and the whole collection world. And I'm sure, well, I hope that people watching will have questions about how we produced the show and so on and so forth. There just seems to me to be an astonishing amount of interest for a show that's 40 odd years old. So good time for us to talk about it, right?
I could not agree more. Nothing like this has ever been done for ThunderCats, and a lot of other properties and shows have been doing this type of thing. Like, you name it, whether it's the voice actors getting together or whatever it is. And the one thing with talking about ThunderCats, especially, like, there's so many fans out there, and there's so many different pages and this and that. There is a fan community, but at the same time, a lot of people, we're not connected. And I really hope that we're able to bring everybody together and kind of really have this almost like a spot for everyone that's a ThunderCats fan, SilverHawks fan, TigerSharks, and not just that. Why this is called Beyond Thundera as well. We are going to go beyond ThunderCats, beyond SilverHawks and whatnot. You've worked on a lot of different projects over the years, and some of the guests that we're going to have on that worked on ThunderCats or these properties have also worked on other projects, and this is the one thing right now, again, like how you said, you haven't really been within the fan community all these years, and you didn't really know it existed. There's so much information that fans we don't know that we love finding out. Whether it's, you actually, we'll talk about this at a later show, but you were one of the writers of the screenplay on the horror classic, The Burning. There's so many horror fans out there who are also ThunderCat fans that may not know that. So this is, I hope we're going to be able to put a lot of information out there for a lot of fans And it's just going to be an all-around good time. I know if you've never talked to Peter, Peter's a blast. He's very funny. And I'll put this a warning out there too. There may be some things out there that you hear and you're like, oh wow, I never knew that. I don't know how I feel about that, because we're kind of pulling the curtain. You're getting a look behind the curtain on some things, which now, this is something we've loved for 40 years. And again, you might like a hot dog, but you might not like to hear or see how it's made. There might be some stories like that where like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. I mean, again, nothing awful, nothing bad. But again, we're pulling the curtain so you can see behind the production of all this stuff. I think it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. Oh, and for those that have met me at shows and whatnot, my language is awful. I will try to tone it in for this so we don't get pulled off of whatever it is, YouTube or anything like that. But yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of fun, a whole lot of fun. I know, Peter, hell, it's been years now we've been talking. And within the book, for those of you that have the first book and the new book isn't out yet, but when you get the new book, he's all over that book. I've asked you so many questions over the years. I've got more, don't worry. So I even have more questions for you moving forward and whatnot that either didn't make the book and whatnot, and just other questions that people have asked me to ask you as we go on. So that's another thing. People, anyone that's watching, please send us an email. It's at Beyond ThunderCats Podcast @gmail.com if you have questions, or you can find us on Instagram at Beyond ThunderCats Podcast. If you have questions, one of the things I would like to do at the within the show, maybe it's at the end of the show, whenever we're able to work it in, ask fan questions that you guys sent in to see what you guys have, and we'll ask them to Peter. It can also be asked to me, but let's be honest. You guys have seen me at shows. I talk your ear off at shows. You may not have a chance to talk to Peter, so your questions are probably going to be for Peter. Boom. Speaking of shows, we can let everyone know this. Peter, we've actually been working on trying to get you on some shows here in the U.S. and hopefully this upcoming year, if not even future shows.
Yeah, no, at the moment, I'm penciled in for Texas, a show in Texas, and that big show in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. Hopefully more, but, we'll see. It seems to be a very long and drawn-out process. And the other thing is, which is a bit of a surprise to me, but that's fine. I don't really care. I don't know there's a lot. The interest is really in the actors at the moment. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe, I don't mean this arrogantly, but maybe what I could bring to it is those guys have been on the circuit for years. Yeah. And so suddenly maybe the guy that put the words in their mouths appears. Anyway, that's the hope. Mm-hmm. And going back to something that Buddha said, questions. Yeah, I'm fascinated by the questions, and I love answering them when I can. I must tell you that I've had a few questions that I just can't answer, and in fact, I'm due to do an interview in Spanish on Friday. And I asked simply because I wanted to prepare my language. Mm-hmm. Not the swearing, I hasten to add. I'll try and tone that down in English. So, I just wanted to have a few, in case there was any vocabulary I needed. Yeah. I tell you, I got some questions and I thought, holy moly, I can't answer these. I mean, I will, obviously, because I'll, intricate questions about tiger sharks, which quite honestly, and I'm not knocking the show, I didn't really enjoy it. My time at Bass was definitely running out. I didn't think the show was a particularly good idea, and so I guess I blanked it from my mind. Mm-hmm. Whereas ThunderCats and SilverHawks, particularly SilverHawks, are so big with me that somebody asked me a question the other day. Oh yeah, what would you do if you were writing a movie of ThunderCats? What? I don't. What? I mean, there's so many, but on the other hand, that's a very intriguing question. Mm-hmm. Right. Because it raises, well, what's the audience now? Mm-hmm. I mean, presumably, the sort of basically the base audience would be the aficionados, and they're all between what 40 and 50 now.
Yeah, just about.
Do they want their kids to watch it? I'm talking with one of the great fans, JP.
Yes.
One of the points he made is that he feels that there's nothing out there now that had the same kind of content that he would like to share with his kids.
Mm-hmm.
And for him, ThunderCats had some, I hate using this word, and I can never think of a better word for it, but some kind of moral code, if you like, some kind of positive. I guess it was just a positive message.
Yeah.
And he says, and I don't know because I don't watch a lot of animation. In fact, to be honest with you, I don't watch any. So, once I left that particular part of the business, I basically lost interest. I didn't watch it. So I don't know. Well, the question before you actually start thinking about what would you do with a movie is what's the audience? And as we've discussed, Buddha, with this, and maybe this is the first time anybody hears about this, we're looking at a kind of, I don't know what exactly you'd call it, maybe the beginning of a reboot, which would be a five-part special. And I'm not going to go into any great detail about it, but again, writing that, you think, okay, you've got what's the audience?
Mm-hmm.
What's the sensibility today compared with back then?
Right.
How much more humor? How out there could we be?
Mm-hmm.
Should we be? What's the balance between being absolutely true to the origin of the show and updating it, bringing something new to it? So, a lot of questions that we get from followers of ThunderCats that are really not answerable, but they're, for me anyway, they're very interesting discussion points.
Yeah, right. And well, again, maybe for some of these questions too, maybe you haven't thought about what these questions were, and now going through this and kind of being more immersed in the world and the fandom with the fans, maybe at some point you're going to have some answers, to a question that you were asked before. Like, I hadn't really thought about it, but now again, with even doing this podcast and coming out here, meeting fans and getting to talk to even more fans, because I know that's another thing. More fans have actually been like messaging you online and everything. Now that you're thinking more into it, maybe you'll have more answers as things move forward here, which would be pretty cool. Like,
I mean, look, first of all, you can ask me anything, and I'll always give you an answer, even if it's absolute nonsense.
I'm the same.
I have to revisit it later and say, did I really say that? I mean, of course, there are things that I've been asked and that I haven't really thought about. I mean, I know a question coming up, which has nothing to do with us in this discussion, but it's one that I have no answer for. It's, well, what's the style of your writing? Oh, I don't know. But obviously you improvise some kind of answer. Right. So, I mean, I guess what we need to do at this particular moment is just reiterate that we would love to have any questions about this show. And just for people who don't know, the major shows that I worked on apart from ThunderCats, obviously SilverHawks, obviously TigerSharks, Peter Pan and the Pirates, Fox's Peter Pan and the Pirates, and The Real Adventures of Johnny Quest. Those are the big five. I've worked on other shows. I'm not really good at working on one-off scripts for a show, so I've not done much of that. Right. Anybody who knows me and knows ThunderCats probably knows that I have written with Chris Trengo for many, many years, on and off. I mean, we've done a lot of stuff together. And he worked on ThunderCats, and he'll be on this podcast fairly soon to discuss his experiences. And so I've worked for Chris a couple of times when he's had shows to run. And I went to work on contract for an Indian company developing shows, but that was pretty much a disaster. So there have been a lot of disasters. I got to tell you that, a lot of disasters. But that's life. And
Yeah, right.
I want to go back to something that Buddha said earlier about his language. I think one of the things that we both share is that we don't really care.
No.
I would, if you don't like us, or you do like, well, we're doing this for fun.
Yeah, exactly.
And hopefully, I won't revert to the horrible language that I use day to day.
Yeah, on our other conversations, like when we go,
yeah, exactly. So
we're trying to keep it clean, just so YouTube doesn't kick us off, basically.
But what you will get, what you will get is an absolutely honest opinion. And just speaking about my half of it, the production half of it, there is some honesty to be expressed, because there are things that you guys probably don't know, and actually that even I didn't know until I started on my website that ThunderCats of the Day page, and some of the production crew who are on that page told me things about which I had no idea. And they're not all sweetness and light. Some of them are pretty dark. Right. So we'll probably touch on that too. Yeah. Believing, and this I truly believe this, it sounds a little bit pretentious perhaps, that the show was so light. I don't mean insignificant, but I mean so light in its attitude that it can carry some bad news, if you like. Right. Even Mumra, who failed every time to destroy the world, there was some humor, I hope, in his presentation. And actually, I don't know if I told you this, Buddha, I was talking to somebody, Matthew Mallet, and he'll be on the show too, the other day, and we were talking about the voices, and particularly how we might change that today for a different sensibility. And particularly about Mumra and Earl Hammond, who voiced Mumra. Yeah. His view of Mumra was that he was like an old, failed Shakespearean actor who kept going for his auditions and kept losing the part.
I can see that.
Yeah, I think that's a great description.
Oh, 100%. But I am a Mumra guy, as I know you are too. There's a lot of Mumra fans. So I'm going to say that's one take, but I'm going to look at it. I'm going to give it a positive spin for Mumra. Mumra, he's ever living. So if he doesn't win, if he doesn't win that battle, he's going to win the award. He's not concerned. That's why he's just able to keep on going. I'm just doing a little sticking up for Mumra just cause.
Yeah, I don't know. He's a fascinating subject to a lot of people. Yeah. Somebody yesterday sent me 2 Instagram clips in Spanish, unfortunately. So, I'll share them with you. But they're both about their kind of different interpretations of Mumra. And one of them is he's the hero of the show.
Yeah, I've had several conversations about that because I love that conversation. Being able to go into that. Oh, yeah. Continue.
Yeah. And there's a whole other thing too, and I don't know whether we're heading off topic, but a lot of people now, because they're adults, basically question, not aggressively, but curiously, the logic of the show. Does it take place? Is Third Earth Earth? Well, yes, in my mind it is. Well, is it Egypt? Somebody asked. Well, why would you because of the pyramid and Mumra. Right. But on the other hand, you have Excalibur, where the sword obviously is pulled out of the lake and so on and so forth. That's obviously Britain. Right. So, you can't really answer a lot of the logic questions.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, and we've talked about this,
Mm-hmm.
the logic of writing for, well, the logic of writing for anything, but particularly for kids, there's this thing that I and all the writers that I've ever, I don't want to say managed, that's way too strong a word, but all the writers that have ever worked on my shows, that one of the, an anathema to me is writer's convenience. Oh shit, excuse me, I don't know how to get out of this, so I'll have a rocket ship from Saturn appear with a 7-armed alien and he'll fix it.
Right.
And it comes from nowhere. There's no logic to it at all.
Yeah. Right.
It's just writer's convenience. And a lot of people writing for kids do that because basically they say, this is just for kids.
Yeah.
And you know, Roald Dahl, of rotten reputation now, but nonetheless a great writer, he always said writing for children or kids or young audience is exactly the same as writing for adults, but more difficult.
Really? That's an interesting thing.
I don't know whether it is more difficult. I mean, but what I do know is that you can't cheat them. If there's a banana skin on the floor and your guy steps on it, he has to, something has to happen.
Right.
You know,
right.
if I, you know, I mean, there are, you can come up with all kinds of ludicrous examples about in ThunderCats. The Sword of Omens works in a certain way. If you're going to change that, there's got to be a logical reason,
right,
and method to it.
Okay, right. So, yeah, makes sense.
Sorry, Buddha, I'm off on a tangent.
No, it's actually fine because again, like that's a very interesting. It's an interesting even a conversation because it's like with the shows now. Again, it's been 40 years, so now people have a lot of these questions. They're taking their 40-year-old brain and their experiences and their thinking, and trying to put it on a show that was written for. Again, I don't know what the average, the audience was supposed to be that you're writing for, but like for a 10-year-old. So yeah, they're thinking, when you're 10, you're not thinking, oh, this is in Egypt and, this is England and all that. You're just watching the story. You're looking at the pyramid and you like it. And whether you were familiar with Excalibur and everything, well, I'm sure that the fans in the UK were very familiar with it, but fans in the US and other places being 10 years old may not have been familiar with it, but you're not thinking geographically. So yeah, there's a lot of questions that there's a logic that you have for the show isn't necessarily real life logic,
right.
And that's something where I don't want to knock fans or anything like that, like fellow fans, but like sometimes we have to realize that like it was written for a 10-year-old and like the logic, like I said, it's not always real life logic, and 40-year-old or 40-year-old mentality logic isn't always in place for at least cartoons of the 80s and 90s. I don't know how animation and cartoons are done now. Maybe it is a little bit different. Like when you watch things on Netflix, maybe those animations and like those cartoons kind of have a more real life logic for, and also within the world that they have there. But things in the 80s and 90s weren't quite that, I don't want to say logical because again, it had a logic within the world that you had created, not outside of that world.
Yeah, I mean the audience question is a very good question. The age of the audience. I mean, I suppose. See, some of these questions are hard for me to answer because I'm not, and wasn't, and still not, really a big animation aficionado. We've talked about how I got onto the show. We can talk about that later. But, basically, I think I just went in there thinking, oh, okay, it's an audience for kids. It's kids. Yeah. Well, a 12-year-old's not going to like this stuff. So, I don't know, somewhere around about 10, say.
Yeah.
But actually, what happened very, very quickly was that you realized that it had a huge college cult following.
Really?
And older audiences. Obviously, we didn't realize immediately because you're writing episode 10 before something comes back.
Yeah, right.
again, going to the logic, why did an adolescent in 1985 watch this show religiously with his or her friends? Why? So, and I can't answer that question any more than I can answer why the show is a success.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to logic, and I developed SilverHawks, which I can say I basically did develop it from Jules Bass's original idea.
Which, by the way, not to interrupt you, but this year is the 40th anniversary of SilverHawks. This year, that's huge. Which is, I know a lot of people are excited about that, and down the road too, we'll have SilverHawks episodes. And we'll talk more Silverhawks in the future. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Just in case you didn't realize it was 40 years, I wanted to let you know.
I think this interview on Friday, is the exact 41st anniversary.
So the one on Friday, on the January 23rd. That is because you and I are doing this together with Javier Solis and TNT Collectors on YouTube, and Javier's Facebook group, the Nueva Thundera. That is being done on the 23rd, which is the 41st anniversary of the debut episode of ThunderCats. So that's what that one is, and I believe I forget what I actually. A friend and actually a huge ThunderCats fan, the Toys Hunter Hollow over on Instagram. He actually shared it. It was a few days ago or a week or so ago, whatever it was, the actual SilverHawks debut date, because he put like the video up saying it was the actual day, which is cool. But yeah, we are January that time. Yeah.
Just clarify.
Yeah.
This one on the 23rd, right?
23rd. Yep.
This is the anniversary of ThunderCats.
Yeah, the 41st anniversary of the ThunderCats premiere episode, and then because it was what was it the oh man, of course I'm blanking on the spot now. But was it the first couple episodes that played first, and then it came all out in September later that year? It was like the I believe, I forget. I think it was the first 5 or first 3. Again, I forget what it is exactly, but that's with the anniversary of the ThunderCats, 41st anniversary of ThunderCats premiere. Yeah.
Okay, no, I mistakenly said Silverhawks, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, going back to logic,
I
mean, one of the things about Silverhawks was that there are a lot of much more obviously ridiculous things about it.
Right.
I mean, I thought of the galaxy of Limbo as a contained world. I mean, a number of planets, but a contained galaxy, if you like.
Yeah.
And
right.
when I did the Bible, I actually drew a fence all around it.
Oh, really?
Like a fence of thorns, rather like Shaka Zulus. How they used to fence the cattle. And so when I, wrote the first material for it, Masaki Izuka, the boss of Pacific Animation Corporation, who was a very good friend, and whose language, by the way, makes you and me like a qualm. So I'm not going to repeat exactly what he said, but he said to me, "What? We're in space." Obviously very heavy accent, Japanese accent too. He said, "We're in space." What do you mean night and day? There is no night or day. There is no gravity. You can't have a jet car fly right across the galaxy. I said, Masaki, as long as we create this logic,
right,
and break those rules, we can do whatever we want.
Right. And again, he was looking at it logically, like, yeah.
And I mean, nobody ever questioned that. So that, I believe that. And actually, if you look at a big modern movies, I mean, some of those sort of $200 million pictures, it's the same thing. But often, I'll watch a movie like that, and I'll think, wait a minute, how did they get from here to there?
Right.
There's no way they could have done that. And that really offends me. It really
well, I mean, I always bring it to this too. Like, so I am a fan of the Marvel movies and stuff. And when you watch an MCU movie, I'm literally watching a talking raccoon, and I'm believing. I don't question it at all. They have me believing it. With now again, is that the money that they put into it, whatever it is? But yeah, I'm in that world, and that's what again I think a lot of people have to kind of take a step back and realize with some of these questions, you're in that world, and that's just how it was at the time. Like, and you have to use that world logic. But actually, even doing this podcast it'll be interesting because now being able to talk with you, we didn't really think about that. But now fans will be able to kind of see what the logic was that you guys worked within. You know what I mean? Yeah. Where they didn't really think about that. I want to actually go back to talking about the animation and was Masaki, and the other thing that you talked about, why older like kids in college and stuff were watching it religiously. The animation was so good that I don't want to even talking about animation today for kids. Obviously, it is what it is, but that animation was so good. I totally see why. Adolescents and kids in high school or college or whatever would want to watch ThunderCats because just the animation was so good. The animation almost seemed like it was for an older audience, almost ThunderCats and SilverHawks. SilverHawks, some of the stuff, I'm guessing because it was years of them doing it, some of the animation on SilverHawks, like I've actually been watching it. I was actually telling you, I've been binging it not that long ago. Some of it is like, wow. It seems like they even took their own they stepped up their own game while working on SilverHawks on some of the stuff, which is really interesting and just really impressive. But I can totally see why older kids were actually really into it. And I may be totally wrong as to why they were, but I think the animation had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, not really being an aficionado, I didn't know anything about manga or anime or nothing like that when I joined.
Right.
I mean, I think the title sequence still today is spectacular. So the actual animation of the show, we were under so much pressure in terms of the schedule, and Masaki subcontracted a lot of episodes to again, we'll talk with Matthew about this. I'm not 100% certain, but to Korean and other Japanese animation houses. And some of the material that came back really looked awful.
Really?
So, how eventually the majority of it looks pretty good and the majority of it is pretty homogeneous in terms of its style. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how that happened. And that's something that we could talk with Matthew about, at least with Matthew, and probably with other people. I don't know how it compares with other shows of the time, because again, I didn't watch anything else. I wasn't interested, to be honest with you, which is probably a terrible thing to say. Later I looked at some of the Batman, iterations of Batman, which are pretty spectacular.
Oh, the Batman animated series is, yeah.
But then, I think you're dealing with a much bigger budget then.
I would think, yeah.
And we were really up against it. I mean, ThunderCats was produced with a crew in New York. I don't want to exaggerate, but if we had 10 people, I'd be surprised.
Really? Was that few?
Yeah. I mean, obviously we had, rotating the writers in and out.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, again, we check this with Matthew, and then there was the, recording studio.
Right.
But even there, there was 20, maybe 5. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe 5. So 5 there and maybe 6 or 7 in the office.
Oh, wow.
And then there was Masaki, who had a very tight unit in Tokyo. Mm-hmm. Basically, as far as I remember, 3 key people, 2 of the 2 most important, Kubo and Nishida-san. So it was very compact and had to be because, I guess it had to be. I mean, we were on such a tight budget. and such a tight schedule. So, and then when you look at other shows, later shows, and even a couple of shows that I worked on, shifting now from New York to Hollywood, suddenly you wait a minute, you walk into your office and there's somebody sitting there, and who are you? Oh, I'm your assistant. What? I don't know. What are you talking about? And who are you? Oh, well, I'm the sub-assistant. It's bizarre. I mean, just bizarre.
Actually, when you just said that, I actually have a question about that. I know the voice actors will talk about how really a lot of voice work was not done in New York at the time. Most of it was being done over in like LA and Hollywood. Was that the same for on the production side of? Well, again, I know you didn't watch animation or anything like that, but I'm sure you knew people in the industry. But on the production side, were shows being done production-wise in New York, or was a lot of that also?
No, I don't. I mean, again, I think, I'll look it up. I think there was, I don't know if it was My Little Pony or I don't know. I think there was some production in New York, but almost nothing. And one of the things that I still can't believe, but then I don't have a very high opinion of most agents. Fortunately, I've got a great UK agent. We were looking for writers. I mean, that's why I came onto the show. Jules could not find writers.
Actually, not to cut you off, can we actually talk about that? Like, again, for the fans that don't know about how you came onto the show, and if you don't mind, we can get into that. And I know, so you came onto the show. It was early on, but not in the very beginning. It was around, I forget. You may know. It was around episode maybe 10 or 11 or somewhere like that. Right? It was.
Yeah, but I can never remember when I really plugged in. I think when I arrived in New York, I think they had 8 scripts.
Okay.
I think, and obviously others in preparation.
Yeah.
I had never written a second of animation except for one Firestone commercial.
Really?
And that was about the building of a tire.
Okay.
And in my childhood, the sort of period of life where you might look at animation,
Mm-hmm.
I had never seen any because I lived in Africa. And the only and actually in a remote place didn't even have electricity or anything. So the only animation I ever saw was with my father. There was a theatre in Victoria Station in London, and we went on holiday there. And he took me to that theatre, and I saw Looney Tunes for the first time.
Okay.
So I'm aged whatever I was, I don't know, very young. I can't remember. Maybe I don't know. So I came to New York at about show 8, and we can go back to how he got me, how he asked me, how that happened, but just doing this part of it, knowing nothing. Mm-hmm. And I was supposed to just write scripts.
Okay.
So that's what he wanted me for, just to write a couple of scripts, and then we go back to England or whatever,
Right.
And, so I began to write, and the first script I wrote, I left it on his desk, and when I came back the next day, every single page was covered in red, and some of the comments were really pretty nasty.
Really?
So I thought, okay, all right, and I rewrote it.
Mm-hmm.
And when it came back to me, and maybe every other page had red marks all over it, came back to me again. Anyway, maybe 4 drafts.
Jeez, okay.
And it was like a super intense lesson in animation. And what was interesting is that, like everybody in the world, I don't think I'm particularly egotistical, but it really ticked me off that he treated me like some sort of child.
Right. Especially after trying to get you and really wanting you to be, on it.
Well, I mean, I don't mean treating me as a child because it was material was for kids. I
Yeah.
mean, he treated me like a kind of backward student,
Jeez.
and I so nearly left because I mean,
Yeah,
they
right.
didn't pay very much, and I had a career elsewhere.
Mhm.
But it was sort of almost a competition internal. I thought, okay, I'm going to get this right.
Right.
Actually, I did this later with learning how to ride horses. I'm going to get this right, and then I'm never going to do it again, ever.
Right.
So, but by the time I'd gone through that process, Len Starr, and now we're probably talking right about show, I don't know, 10, 11, 12. I could be less, actually. I don't remember.
Mhm.
It's not really important. Len, who created the show
Yeah.
from almost nothing,
Mhm.
whatever anybody else says, and I will defend to my dying day the fact that all kinds of people have come out of the woodwork, and some of them even have royalties on the show, and said, well, it's our show, and we did it, and we told you guys what to write in terms of toys, and it's absolute bullshit, and it
Right.
really annoys me because Len was cheated, and we'll come
Mhm.
back to that. He wrote the show. Now, you'd think by my saying that Len and I must be close buddies. We weren't. Len resented me, and he resented my appearing. And I won't tell you what he said. He said to Bill Overgaard, who became a very close friend,
Mhm.
"Who is this blank 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 Englishman, and what is he doing here?" So it's not like I'm defending my friend. I'm
Right.
actually
Right.
defending what really happened. But Len, who had great ideas, I mean, he wrote in a particular style. It's not a
Mhm.
style that I particularly like.
Mhm.
But that's fine. It was his show. He wrote it. He
Yeah.
set the base. But he couldn't. He couldn't manage the writers.
Oh, okay.
He couldn't. I mean, for whatever reason, whether it was
Mhm.
time, whether it was that his view of the show and the kind of scripts that he wanted was too narrow. I have no idea. But anyway,
Okay.
out of the blue, Jules said to me, "Well, I want you to start editing the scripts
Mhm.
and running the writing department." So, which was, pretty much a surprise to me.
Right. From being treated like a child to now running the department. Like,
But so it was only in that aspect because at that time we were pretty good friends. I mean,
Okay.
later on we fell out, and we could talk about that too.
oh
But,
yeah. Oh, we'll get there. Like,
Yeah, but so from somewhere around about 15
okay.
to the end of the show, I edited everything.
Okay.
And because I took, I don't know how to say this again without sounding, I took it very seriously, my job,
Mhm.
not the show so much.
Yeah.
And so I did a lot of rewriting.
Okay.
I also felt that the writers were underpaid.
Oh,
And
really?
the payments were in stages. So you got one pay, as far as I remember, one payment for the outline, one payment for the first draft, one payment for the second draft, and one payment for the polish. And I thought, there's not enough. This isn't enough money, and I was being paid quite a lot of money.
Mhm.
So I did a lot of rewriting, and a lot of writers never wrote more than the first draft.
Really?
And got the full, had the
Yeah.
full payment.
Right. Right.
So yeah, I mean, I think I can say that I basically ran the scripts from
Yeah.
about 15 to 130. That's it.
Okay. Right. Right. So yeah, like that's you kind of yeah. Well, that's what a lot of people don't realize too, because again, like if they're watching the credits, they see your name's on there. It's like the script supervisor, or I believe what you're called on there. But you were more so like basically a showrunner, and you were really more involved than what the credits. Which now again, I don't know this for fact. All I know is that it just seems like the crediting aspect on ThunderCats was kind of very they're pretty loosey goosey. They just kind of threw titles on things and almost again, script
Well,
supervisor does not seem nearly as I don't.
Was it supervisor or did they say consultant? I don't remember.
I think it was supervisor.
Okay, I'll tell you how that happened. I mean, how that happened.
You know what? I might be wrong now that you say that. Maybe it says consultant, but I think it says supervisor. But again, I'm not 100%.
I mean, it doesn't matter really. In those days, I think they used story editor. I don't think they used showrunner. No, I mean, I'll tell you what I did. I mean, I ran all the scripts.
Mm-hmm.
I worked very closely with the animation house. I worked very closely with the artists who produced the secondary characters. And basically, I was what you would call a showrunner. Why I don't have that credit is that, frankly, at that time, I didn't give a monkeys. I didn't care.
Yeah, right.
You know, one, and I realize now, all these years later, what a terrible mistake I made. I never cared what credit I had.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't make any difference to me. I'm doing the work, I'm paid for it, and that's the end of it.
Okay.
But actually, you know, it's a grave mistake because, particularly if you're looking at it as a writer, because first of all, people judge you by your credits. But more important than that, perhaps, is that if you have your name on a script, you get a share of the royalties.
Oh, okay.
I could have had my name on every single ThunderCats script.
Yeah,
now,
right.
I don't care about that.
Right.
Honestly, that's absolutely the truth. Because when somebody or other, I can't remember, actually it was one of the writers on ThunderCats, and I'm not going to name him, obviously. Yeah. You know, I looked at it and said, well, you've got your name on every script you've written on this another show altogether. He said, yeah, because I get, you know, I get a share of the royalties. And I basically thought that was disgusting.
Oh, right.
You know, the story editor, you're being paid for that, and now what? That's not right. You know, that's just not right. You're now cutting the royalty, the residual payment of some other guy who did all the work, or at least, you know, a lot of the work.
Yeah,
so
right.
That's why that is my credit. And if anybody ever questions it, and well, you know, you're taking credit for something you didn't do, I just point them at David Crichton's book.
Yeah.
Just read Crichton's book. Crichton interviewed everybody on the show, and almost everybody on the show said something about me. So, you know, I don't care. I don't care.
I'm also going to David Crichton. That is a phenomenal book. Anybody, if you have not picked it up, I know you can grab it on Amazon. It's Hear the Roar. It's by David Crichton. Phenomenal book. It's basically every behind the scenes type story. He talked to everyone. Like, unfortunately, a lot of the people, not a lot, but like, you know, Jules Bass, Lee Daniker, the Arthur Rankin, a lot of people have passed. And David Crichton got to talk to a lot of them before they passed, because he put this book out. I forget the year, but it was early, like probably 2008, sometime in that range, whatever it was. But yeah, definitely check it out if you want some. It's very interesting information about the show. You can definitely find it. It's a great read. Yeah. And also, you talked about your website. I wanted to plug it while we were talking about it, but we just kind of kept going. It is gpeterlawrence.com, correct? Is that's your website?
Yeah, that's the website, gpeterlawrence.com.
Yeah, and everyone, you should check that out, because again, which is really cool, the one thing Peter has been doing is called the ThunderCat of the Day, and you feature different, kind of like what we're doing here. You feature different people from the production side, whether it be a writer, whether it be someone that worked in the audio aspect. The other thing that's really cool is, I know we're kind of borrowing that idea here. You feature fans, where fans get to tell their own story, because like, I know I'm one of these fans. We all have our own story as to why ThunderCats means so much to us, and there's so many that have just a totally different story. Like my story is totally different than someone else's, and it's just really cool hearing all these stories, how it affected so many people in such positive ways, that now, again, 40 years later, we all still love it. We all still really care about it. And for you doing that on your website, I think is really cool, and cool aspect for fans. Like, I know there's been people that we talked to that once they find out that you actually wanted to do it, like they're mind blown. It's like, oh my, like, I'm on Peter Lawrence's site. It's such a cool thing that you're doing for the fans. And then also, again, like, one of the reasons we're also doing this, shining light on production side, where there's so many people. Well, okay, in ThunderCats, there's only 10 people. There's a lot of people that go into making these cartoons. And a lot of the voice actors get a lot of the love, as they should. They are the voice of the childhoods and all that, and they're on the road doing it. But there's so many other people that went into making the voice actors sound good, that went into writing the words for the voice actors to actually make the voice. And the people that directed, like, oh, okay, we need that to sound a little bit different. We need it to do like this. So there's so many people. The fact that you're shedding light on them on your website and kind of bringing them back into the fold here 40 years later. And again, what we're doing here, it's just really, it's really great. If anyone that hasn't checked out Peter's website, gpeterlawrence.com. And I know you also have a lot of your other work. You've worked with Chris on, you guys have been writing partners for years. You've done other projects and whatnot. They can find more information about you and about the things that, you and Chris have worked on, other things that you have worked on. But I think, we're about like 50 minutes in or so. And I'd say,
I think we should wrap it up.
Yeah, I think now's probably a good time to wrap it up here and end it. But like we were talking about, if you're a fan of ThunderCats and you have any questions, send us a question. You can email us at beyondthunderapodcast@gmail.com. You can send it on Instagram. It's at Beyond Thundera Podcast. We'll be happy to read any. And actually, you know what? I do have one here, and I'm sorry, I'm not as prepared as I should be. I do have a question. This was from Jake, who I actually talked to at in South Carolina at Retro Toy Con. The show back in November. We are trying to get it was kind of late in the game, but he wanted me to ask. It's him and his daughter. So he's got a young daughter who he has gotten into. She's gotten her into ThunderCats. She absolutely loves it. They started watching ThunderCats Roar. We won't get into that, but this is more based on the original ThunderCats series. So you may have it may have some more insight a little bit to it, because honestly, we'll actually get to this on another episode about the Bible that was written by Len Starr, and even just the ThunderCats Bible, and also the SilverHawks Bible. Again, we'll talk about these later. So you're probably one of I know you may not remember much that was in it, but you're probably one of the few people that is around that may have some memories of the ThunderCats Bible. So that kind of give us a little bit more information to what was in there. But so Jake wanted to know, ask Peter about any behind-the-scenes details or his headcanon for the origin of Mumra. And it was actually his daughter, Coral, who wanted to ask about it. So yeah, do you remember any of the origin of Mumra? That was anything like that in the Bible, in the ThunderCats Bible that was written?
No, actually, no, and I don't have a copy of the Bible, so I can't go back to my memory. I could be wrong about this entirely, and I think maybe Nick has a copy of the Bible. I'm not sure, or James maybe. But anyway,
I think James does. I do think he does. But
we'll
talk. Yeah,
we'll figure that out later. Yeah. I'd like to get him on the show. Actually,
100%.
I'm waiting for a contribution to ThunderCat of the Day, because he knew Len pretty well.
Yeah, they were very good friends. Yeah.
The answer to it, I think my memory of the Bible is that there was very little written about Mumra.
Really? Okay.
That just that he was a mummy, that he could transform from his sort of skeletal form under the power of the ancient spirits of evil into this gigantic superheroic figure.
Right. Okay.
That's and I don't think there was. I don't think there was anything about his character. Whereas, for example, Lano or Jaga, we knew a lot about them even before we started writing. I think we created. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. But I think we created Mumra as we went along.
Oh, okay.
And it's much more interesting to write for bad guys than good guys.
100%.
I loved writing for Mumra. So I think that as we went along, we developed him. As in fact, the same thing applies to Monstar in SilverHawks.
Okay.
But we should check the Bible and
Yeah.
figure that out. So as you said, wrapping up. You're going to wrap it up, but I just want to tell everybody that we're going to get people from the production crew.
Yep.
We're going to get some writers. Not sure how many, because sadly some of them have disappeared. I don't know whether they've disappeared off Third Earth altogether or whether they've actually sort of stopped right. I don't know. I mean, one guy told me the other day, I said, hey, we're doing something. I'm putting something together new on ThunderCats. I'd love you to be involved. And he said, I'm enjoying retirement.
Okay.
And I thought, oh, really? What? I couldn't believe it. But okay, fine.
We'll get him again. The more we do this, the more he sees more people involved. Because we're going to have guests. I believe we're going to be. I don't know exactly when, but we're going to be putting new episodes out very regularly. And Chris Trengrove is going to be joining us here pretty shortly, which will be very cool. And again, whoever that writer was that you spoke with, the more he sees, the more people involved. Hopefully, we're going to sway his decision where he'll give us, whatever it is, a half hour just to be able to talk about his time on ThunderCats. Because if not, hey, that's good too. But hopefully we get him. But yeah, we're going to have a lot more guests over as we go on here, and look out for the next. I'll say maybe the next episode or episode after that with Chris. And again, anyway, if you have questions for Peter, you have questions for Chris, have questions for me, which I can't imagine you would. But if you do, please send them in. We'll get to them on next episode. And I think that's all we got for today. Peter's anything else?
I'll tell you, there's just one more thing.
Yeah.
You say you have questions for you. Who would have questions? I have questions for you.
Okay.
So,
okay. Well, then there you go. In the future, we'll get to talk about me, which I'm very good at doing. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this first episode of Beyond Thundera. And I honestly cannot wait for the next one. Until then, ThunderCats ho!